That's too much work. Welcome to the Joe Fixes It channel, located in Fairmount, Georgia. Today, I'm going to show you how to fix the chronic leaky door problem on a Mark II passenger car door. You can see right here, looking at this door, you notice how it's discolored along the bottom. That's because there's a plastic liner in the side that comes unbonded from the door casing, and water leaks into it, wicks into this, and then drips inside the car. This is a chronic problem with the Mark IIs, Jettas, Golfs. It doesn't really matter. The sealing plastic on the inside of the doors eventually shrinks, come loose, and if you let your car sit out in the rain for any length of time, you're going to come out and find the floorboards full of water. If you really let them sit for a long time, you'll come out and find your car full of mold. Anyway, before we start this job, we need to get a few tools together. There may be a couple more that I think of along the way, but this is pretty much the basic lot of things that you need. You need a measuring device and a straight edge for cutting plastic, double-side sealing tape, I'll put a link in the description, some plastic sheeting from your local hardware store, Super 77 upholstery glue, Phillips screwdriver, of course a box cutter, a couple blade screwdrivers for prying things loose. An absolute must is a heat gun. A pair of scissors, pretty good. The first thing we have to do is remove the door panel, mostly because it's in the way. You have to remove the window crank, the handle, and the latch mechanism. There are 4 screws, one here, one here, one here, and one here. Window crank removal. Pull the cover off. And this thing just pops off like that. All right, I've got the door handles and the screws off. It pretty much just unsnaps from there. You slide the top out first and lift the panel up because there's clips down here. There's a clip here and a clip here, but since these are all rotten, they really don't matter. You can take a screwdriver and pop it loose from there. We've got this thing off. You can see at the bottom of it is pretty much rotted away. I don't know how to fix that, and these things are getting pretty scarce. If anybody out there knows a good way to repair these so they're almost as good as the original, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. Contact me on Facebook. Should be pretty obvious what's going on here. This plastic cover, it shrank and came all apart. Who knows, somebody might have had to make a window repair and didn't understand how important it was to have that plastic secure in place. Pull this off and throw this mess away. Up here, when the water hits the window, they have a seal there, but it really doesn't hold all the water back, and it's designed to have water run down the window through the door. See the vent holes right here? Water's supposed to run out of those, out the door and on the ground. So when that water runs down through the door, it tends to hit things and hit structures in here, splash out, and that plastic that they put in there keeps it from hitting the door panel, because if it hits the door panel, it'll soak into the door panel and act like a big wick and dribble water right inside your car. Before we start cleaning up the areas where we want to glue stuff down, I have to remove all these tabs that hold the panel on the door. They're made out of plastic. There's only one way to get them off. That's with a heat gun and a screwdriver, and you have to be very careful not to break them because they're really hard to find. All right, before we go any further, these little tabs that I just pulled out, they have an expansion wedge that you push in so they'll stay in place. Obviously I couldn't push them out before I removed them, so I just got them hot and got them soft and pulled them on out. Here's what they look like, and you can see you got to get them a little bit warm before you do this. I've already heated this one up, and you just take and push this little core or a little wedge and pull it out and leave it in there loose. And when you put it all back together, you'll snap it in and push that button down and it'll stay right in place. It's the same way with the white ones. Get a hold of them without breaking them. I think it's stuck in there, but good. I'm gonna get all these ready for installation. The last one is succumbing to my charms. There we go, they're all ready to install. The next order of business is to clean up the surface area where we're going to glue everything back together. Typically, I'll use a heat gun, solvent, rag, and I scrape on it. You're not going to be able to get it all off, but mostly you want to have it clean from about on the bottom half right around here, because that's the part that holds the water back from running in the floorboard of your car. All right, I'm ready to go. I'm going to start measuring to put my plastic in the door. I'm going to do something a little bit different than Volkswagen does. I'm going to put an extra piece of plastic right here in this hole in the door and fold it in before I put the outer layer of plastic on, and it's going to keep the water from splashing out and hitting the door panel, so I have an extra layer of protection. So let's go ahead and measure twice and cut once. Right. So we measured across here. We're gonna have this thing at 23 inches wide, and we want it to be a minimum of 10 inches deep. If it's a little bit longer, doesn't really matter. It's plastic, it's gonna fold in, no big deal. That would be right here, and more or less right here. As far as the length, I'm really not going to trim anything off that. So let's make our little cut. And there we have our inner door flap. Let's check and make sure it's going to cover the hole before we apply our cement to it. That is a little bit long. That looks a little better. And it'll fit right inside the door. We get our Super 77 upholstery adhesive. You need to spray it on both surfaces and let it get tacky or almost dry so it'll stick really good. So we're going to spray a little bit right across here and spray it right here on its mating surface. And I'm going to let it dry. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes. It's good and tacky. So let's go ahead and put our plastic piece on. It is really, really sticky. Kind of get it started in the center, and then just stick it right out to the edge, and there you go. Tuck it inside, and then that's your splash catcher. That's your double insurance that this is going to work. So let's go ahead and measure the vertical and the horizontal distance. We want this piece of plastic to be 34 inches wide. We're not going to play, so we'll go 21. We can always trim the edges off. So let's head over to the cutting board and get our piece of plastic ready. I'm going to put it up here and make sure it's getting good coverage before I go all the trouble of gluing it on. I'm going to go with the big yes on that. Some more Super 77, the only way to go. We'll put us a light coat. And this is the side we want on it, so we'll turn it around. There. Now, let's give it a little time to cure. It's been there for about 10 or 15 minutes. It's good and tacky. Let's go ahead and stick the top part of the plastic in and start the next phase. We've got that stuck on. Now we're going to fold it up because I'll show you what I'm going to do next. We'll stick it up here so it's not in the way. Now what I want to do next is I'm going to put some double-sided foam adhesive I'll put a link in the description so you can find it. I'm pretty sure I bought it on Amazon. But this is yet another thing I'm doing that Volkswagen doesn't do to ensure this thing never leaks again. First thing I'm going to do is spray some 3M Super 77 on it to make sure this crap sticks down. Now we'll let that dry for yet another 10 minutes. All right, we've got 10 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and stick this adhesive down. We'll start the tape right about here, and we're going to kind of go around the hole, kind of like that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Super 77 again, put another layer all around the thing, and also on this side, and give it a few more minutes to dry. We'll give it another few minutes to dry. All right, everything's dry. We're ready to stick the plastic down, so let's go ahead and get with it. The next order of business is to get my little knife, cut around the edges, and trim out the holes for the window crank and the handles. I have my plastic on, it's looking pretty good. Now we have to put those pesky little snaps back in there. There's two of the black ones that hold the bottom ridge of the door panel, and then there's the other two. Those are the things the screws actually go in. You can see right here, they're ready to be snapped in place. Right here, just punch it right through the plastic and push that little snap in, and there you go. I got that done. Now it's time to assemble the door panel and call it a day. We got our door panel. It's time to put it on. But I did notice one problem. If you notice, that's pretty tight right there, and you have a protrusion right here. It tends not to want to go down. So here's the fix for that. Warm that plastic up and smush it in and make room for that door panel. If the bottom wasn't missing, you would put the bottom in first, so it would fit, and then slide it in its groove up here on top. But we can see there's no bottom of the door to hold it in, and put your screws in. There's two. There's your third. Window crank. Finished product. It'll never leak again, or not, at least until I pull the plastic off to fix something broken inside the door, which does happen. If you found this interesting, if you found this useful, did you know your doors leak? I don't know. Subscribe to the channel, support the channel, hit thumbs up, support me, and I guess I'll see you in the next video.